like a beautiful blonde pineapple.
From a leading lady who couldn't actually dance to a co-star who was nearly a decade older than her character, to one of the most expensive costume pieces in film history that nobody expected. Grease looked like the perfect high school musical, but behind those pink jackets and slick-back hair was chaos, last-minute casting disasters, and secrets the studio tried to bury. These are 21 weird facts you didn't know about Grease. If you're loving these deep dives into classic movies, hit subscribe. I cover the hidden stories behind your favorite films every week. Now, let's get into it. Number 21. Olivia Newton-John was terrified she was too old to play a high school student. And honestly, she had a point. She was 28 years old when filming started. John Travolta was 23. Stockard Channing, who played Rizzo, was 33, playing a teenager. The producers knew this was a problem, but they didn't care. They wanted star power, not authenticity. Olivia was so nervous about looking ridiculous that she demanded a screen test in costume before agreeing to the role. She needed to see herself as Sandy before she'd commit. The studio agreed. They shot test footage of her in the final carnival scene outfit, the black leather and tight pants. When she saw it, she still wasn't convinced. But the studio had already announced her casting in the trades, so backing out would have been a PR disaster. She signed the contract the next day. The age issue became even more obvious during the school scenes. Olivia looked noticeably older than the extras playing her classmates. Some of them were actual teenagers, fresh out of high school. The makeup department worked overtime, trying to make her look younger, using softer lighting and specific camera angles. They even had her wear minimal makeup in the first half of the film to create a more innocent, youthful appearance. But nothing could hide the fact that she was a grown woman pretending to be 17. The irony is that her age actually helped the performance. She brought a maturity and depth to Sandy that a real teenager couldn't have delivered. When Sandy makes her transformation at the end, it feels like a genuine choice from someone who knows what she's doing, not just a kid trying to impress a boy. Number 20. The T-Birds cars were falling apart during filming. Those gorgeous hot rods you see racing and cruising around Rydell High were held together with duct tape and prayer. The production had a tiny budget for vehicles, so they bought cheap vintage cars and tried to make them look cool. But these cars were old, broken, and constantly overheating. During the Thunder Road race scene, one of the cars literally lost a wheel mid-take. The crew had to stop filming for 3 hours to fix it. Another car's engine caught fire during a scene in the school parking lot. The actors kept filming anyway because they couldn't afford to lose the day. If you watch closely during some of the driving scenes, you can actually see smoke coming from under the hoods. That's not special effects. That's the cars dying in real time. Number 19. The hand jive scene was completely improvised choreography. The dance competition at the school gym was supposed to be tightly scripted with professional moves. But when the choreographer showed up to set, she realized half the actors couldn't dance. So she created the hand jive on the spot. It's a simple, repetitive routine that anyone can learn in 5 minutes. She taught it to the cast during lunch break, and they filmed it that same afternoon. The whole sequence that looks so iconic and perfectly coordinated was invented in under an hour. John Travolta was furious because he actually could dance, and he felt like the routine made him look amateurish. He wanted something more complex, more West Side Story, but the director told him it had to be simple enough for Olivia and the rest of the cast to keep up. Travolta later admitted he was wrong, that the hand jive became one of the most memorable parts of the movie, precisely because it felt accessible and fun. What makes the scene even more impressive is that most of the background dancers were also non-professionals. The production couldn't afford to hire a full team of trained dancers, so they recruited local college students and told them to copy whatever the leads were doing. Some of them had never danced in front of a camera before. You can spot the amateurs if you watch closely. Some people are offbeat, others are doing completely different moves, but the chaos actually works in the scene's favor. It feels like a real high school dance competition, where not everyone knows what they're doing. The choreographer later said she was proud of how scrappy and authentic it turned out, even though it wasn't what she originally envisioned. Number 18. The Tell Me More car scene was filmed in a freezing cold warehouse in the middle of summer. The drive-in sequence where Danny and Sandy reunite looks warm and romantic, but the actors were shivering the entire time. The production couldn't afford to rent an actual drive-in theater, so they built a fake one inside a warehouse with no air conditioning. It was August in Los Angeles. The temperature outside was in the 90s. But inside the warehouse, with all the lights and equipment, it was somehow even hotter. To cool everyone down, the crew brought in industrial fans and ice. Too much ice. The temperature dropped so fast that the actor's breath started showing on camera. You can actually see it in a few shots if you watch closely. Olivia Newton-John was wearing a thin sweater and started shaking between takes. They wrapped blankets around her until the cameras rolled. The second the director yelled cut, she was freezing again. The whole shoot took 14 hours, and by the end, half the crew had caught colds. Number 17. Stockard Channing refused to wear a wig, so they had to dye her real hair pink. The costume designer wanted Rizzo's Pink Lady's look to be perfect, and that included bright pink streaks in her hair. Most actresses would have worn a wig or extensions. Channing refused. She said it would look fake on camera, and she wanted Rizzo to feel real and lived in. So the hair department bleached sections of her actual hair and dyed them hot pink. The problem was the dye didn't take evenly. One side of her head turned out brighter than the other. They had to re-dye it 3 times before it looked balanced. By the end of filming, her hair was completely fried. Channing said it took over a year for her hair to recover, and she had to cut it short to get rid of the damage. But she never regretted it. She believed it made Rizzo feel more authentic, more like a real teenage girl experimenting with rebellion instead of a Hollywood version of one. Number 16. The Thunder Road race almost killed the stunt drivers. That iconic drag race scene where the cars fly down the LA River looks dangerous because it was dangerous. The cement riverbed is narrow, the turns are sharp, and there's zero room for error. The stunt coordinators wanted to use professional drivers, but the studio said they were too expensive, so they hired local car enthusiasts who had never done stunt work before. During the first rehearsal, one of the drivers lost control and crashed into the concrete wall at 40 miles per hour. He walked away with a concussion and broken ribs. The production shut down for 2 days while they investigated whether to continue. The studio decided to keep going, but hired one professional stunt coordinator to supervise. Even then, the second driver clipped another car during filming and spun out. Nobody was seriously hurt that time, but the cast and crew realized how close they were to a real disaster. John Travolta wasn't even allowed near the cars during the race scenes. His insurance policy prohibited it. Number 15. Olivia Newton-John's leather pants in the final scene had to be sewn onto her body. Those iconic black pants that Sandy wears during You're the One That I Want were so tight that she couldn't get them on by herself. The costume department tried zippers, but they showed on camera. They tried elastic, but it didn't create the right silhouette. So the wardrobe team came up with a solution that sounds insane. They had Olivia step into the pants, pull them up as far as she could, and then they sewed the waistband shut while she was wearing them. She was literally stitched into the costume. Once they were on, she couldn't sit down, couldn't use the bathroom, and could barely breathe. She had to stand between takes, leaning against a wall to stay upright. The pants were so tight that after filming Wrapped, she had bruises on her hips and thighs. She needed help from 2 costume assistants to cut her out of them. Olivia later said those pants were the most uncomfortable thing she'd ever worn in her entire career, and she refused to keep them as a souvenir. The worst part was filming the choreography while wearing them. Every move had to be carefully planned because one wrong step could have split the seams. The costume team kept backup pants on standby, already pre-sewn to Olivia's measurements, just in case the originals ripped. During one take, she did a high kick and heard a tearing sound. Everyone froze, but it was just the stitching at the ankle, not the main seam. They patched it with fabric glue between takes and kept going. The entire You're the One That I Want number took 2 days to film, which meant Olivia had to be sewn into those pants 4 separate times. By the final day, she told the costume designer she would never wear tight pants in another movie again, and she kept that promise. For the rest of her career, every contract included a clause about comfortable costumes. Number 14. The school used for Rydell High wasn't actually a school. It was a random office building in downtown LA. The production couldn't afford to rent a real high school for months of filming, so they found a vacant office complex and transformed it. They built lockers, painted the walls, added trophy cases, and turned conference rooms into classrooms. But the building had no gym, no cafeteria, and no auditorium. All of those scenes were filmed in completely different locations around Los Angeles. The gym scene was shot at a community center in Pasadena. The cafeteria was a soundstage. The auditorium was borrowed from a local theater. If you pay attention to the background details, nothing matches from scene to scene. The lockers are different colors. The floor tiles change, the windows appear and disappear. Continuity was a nightmare, and the editor had to carefully cut around the inconsistencies. Most audiences never noticed, but film students have been analyzing the errors for decades. Number 13. Jeff Conaway, who played Kaniki, was drunk during most of his scenes. Conaway was struggling with addiction throughout the production, something that wouldn't become public knowledge until years later. He showed up to set late, forgot his lines, and occasionally couldn't stand up straight. The director knew something was wrong but didn't want to recast the role halfway through filming, so they worked around it. They scheduled Conaway's scenes for later in the day, after he'd sobered up a bit. They gave him shorter lines. They used body doubles for wide shots. In the scene where Kaniki gets hit in the head with a car door, Conaway was so out of it that he actually got hit for real. It wasn't acting. He stumbled, and the door caught him on the side of the head. The director kept it in the movie because it looked believable. Conaway later said that Grease was one of the darkest periods of his life, and he barely remembered filming it. He went to rehab twice in the years after the movie premiered, but he struggled with addiction until his death in 2011. Number 12. The song "Hopelessly Devoted to You" was written specifically for Olivia Newton-John at the last minute. It wasn't in the original stage musical. The producers realized halfway through filming that Olivia didn't have a solo ballad, and they needed one to showcase her voice. They called in the songwriting team and gave them 48 hours to write something. The result was "Hopelessly Devoted," which became one of the most iconic songs in the movie. But here's the weird part. Olivia hated it at first. She thought it was too sappy, too on the nose. She recorded it anyway because her contract required her to sing whatever the producers wanted. The song was nominated for an Academy Award and became a massive hit. Olivia later admitted she was completely wrong about it, but at the time, she thought it was going to ruin her career. Number 11. Danny's Letterman jacket cost more than any other costume in the entire film. That red and white Rydell high jacket that John Travolta wears during the sports scenes was custom made by a specialized tailor who normally designed for professional athletes. The production wanted it to look authentic, not like a cheap movie prop, so they commissioned a real varsity jacket with hand-stitched letters, genuine leather sleeves, and custom embroidery. The jacket cost $1,200 in 1977, which would be over $6,000 today. For comparison, Olivia Newton-John's entire Sandy wardrobe for the first half of the movie cost less than $800. The studio executives were furious when they found out how much was spent on one jacket, but the costume designer argued it was worth it because the jacket became a symbol of Danny's character. She was right. That jacket is one of the most recognizable pieces of movie costume history. After filming, John Travolta tried to keep it, but the studio refused. It ended up in a warehouse for years before being auctioned off to a private collector for over $100,000. Number 10. The beauty school dropout scene was added after principal photography wrapped. It wasn't supposed to be in the movie. Frankie Avalon's entire appearance as the teen angel was a last-minute addition during post-production. The studio screened an early cut of the film for test audiences, and the feedback was that the movie needed more humor and more music in the second act. So they brought the cast back months later to film the beauty school sequence. But by that point, some of the actors had moved on to other projects and weren't available. That's why Frenchie is the only main character in the scene. Everyone else in the salon is an extra or a day player. The whole thing was shot in 2 days on a closed soundstage with a tiny crew. Frankie Avalon showed up, sang his song, and left. He wasn't even at the premiere because he assumed his scene would get cut. When the movie became a massive hit, he was shocked to find out he was in it. The scene almost didn't happen at all because of budget issues. The studio had already spent their allocated production money, and they didn't want to authorize additional filming. The director had to personally guarantee that the scene would work and that it wouldn't need reshoots. He staked his reputation on it. The pressure was enormous. They had one chance to get it right, no room for mistakes. The teen angel costume was designed and sewn in 48 hours. The set was built from leftover materials from other movies. Even the fog machines were borrowed from a production filming next door. Everything about the scene was makeshift and rushed, but it ended up being one of the most beloved moments in the entire film. Frankie Avalon later joked that he got paid more per minute of screen time than anyone else in the cast because his entire appearance lasted less than 4 minutes but took 2 full days of work. Number 9. Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta barely spoke off camera during the first 2 weeks of filming. There was tension between them from day one. Travolta had campaigned hard for Olivia to get the role of Sandy because he thought she was perfect, but when she showed up on set, she was cold and distant. She later explained that she was terrified of him. Travolta was already a massive star from Welcome Back, Cotter, and Saturday Night Fever. She felt like a pop singer pretending to be an actress. She was convinced he resented her for getting the part, so she avoided him. She ate lunch alone. She didn't make eye contact between takes. Travolta thought she hated him. It wasn't until the director forced them to rehearse the "You're the One That I Want" number together that they finally talked. Travolta asked her directly if she had a problem with him. Olivia broke down and admitted she was just scared. After that, they became close friends. But if you watch the early scenes in the movie, you can feel the awkwardness between them. It wasn't chemistry. It was two people who didn't know how to talk to each other yet. The turning point came during the carnival scene rehearsals. They were supposed to ride the Ferris wheel together for a romantic moment, but Olivia was afraid of heights. She started panicking before they even got in the car. Travolta noticed and stayed with her, talking her through it, making jokes to distract her. That's when she realized he wasn't the intimidating superstar she'd built up in her head. He was just another actor trying to do his job. From that moment on, their friendship became genuine. They started having dinner together between shoots. They'd run lines in each other's trailers. By the end of production, they were inseparable. The on-screen chemistry you see in the final carnival scenes is real, because by that point, they'd become actual friends. Number 8. The entire greased lightning car was built from scratch in 6 days. The iconic white hot rod with red interior that the T-Birds transform in the garage didn't exist before the movie. The script called for a junker car that gets turned into a dream machine, but the production couldn't find a real car that looked bad enough to start and good enough to finish, so they decided to build one. The art department bought a rusted-out 1948 Ford frame from a junkyard and completely reconstructed it. They worked around the clock, welding, painting, and customizing. When it came time to film the Greased Lightning musical number, the car still wasn't finished. The interior shots show a completed car, but the exterior shots show a car that's still missing parts. If you watch closely, the hubcaps appear and disappear between cuts. The exhaust pipes are attached in some shots and gone in others. The production was literally finishing the car while they were filming it. By the time they wrapped, the car was complete, but it couldn't actually drive. It was a static prop that had to be pushed by crew members anytime it needed to move. Number 7. Rizzo's pregnancy scare storyline almost got cut from the movie. The studio was nervous about including a teen pregnancy subplot in what was supposed to be a fun, lighthearted musical. They thought it was too dark, too heavy. The director fought to keep it, arguing that it gave the movie emotional depth and made Rizzo more than just a mean girl stereotype. The studio compromised. They allowed the storyline to stay, but they made the director change the ending. In the original script, Rizzo was actually pregnant, and the movie ended with her deciding to keep the baby and raise it with Kenickie. The studio said that was too controversial. So they added the line where Rizzo reveals it was just a scare and she's not pregnant after all. The director hated the change. He thought it undercut Rizzo's entire character arc, but he didn't have final cut approval, so the studio got what they wanted. Stockard Channing later said she preferred the original ending because it would have made Rizzo's story more honest and more tragic. Number 6. The carnival scene at the end was filmed at a real amusement park that was about to be demolished. The production got permission to use the park for 1 week before the bulldozers came in. They had to shoot fast because the park was literally falling apart. Some of the rides didn't work anymore. The electrical systems were failing. The whole place was a safety hazard. During filming, one of the Ferris wheel cars got stuck at the top with 2 actors inside. The ride had been condemned for a reason. The actors were trapped for 45 minutes while the crew tried to manually crank the wheel down. Another ride, the Tilt-A-Whirl, broke down mid-scene and started spinning in the wrong direction. The actors kept performing because they knew they wouldn't get another chance to shoot. If you watch the carnival sequence closely, you can see the panic on some of the background performers' faces. That's not acting. They were genuinely scared. 3 weeks after filming wrapped, the entire park was torn down to make room for a shopping mall. Number 5. John Travolta's pompadour hairstyle took 90 minutes to create every single day. His natural hair was too thin and too flat to hold the iconic greaser look. So the hair department used a combination of extensions, hair pieces, and an insane amount of product. They started with Travolta's real hair, teased it, sprayed it, and then attached 3 separate hair pieces to the top and sides. Then they sculpted the whole thing into the pompadour shape, using gel, mousse, and finishing spray. The process was so complicated that Travolta had to arrive on set 2 hours before anyone else just to get his hair done. And the style was so fragile that he couldn't touch his head, couldn't wear a hat, and couldn't move too quickly, or the whole thing would collapse. Between takes, the hair team followed him around with combs and spray bottles, constantly fixing and reshaping. By the end of each shooting day, Travolta's scalp was covered in sores from all the clips and pins holding the hair pieces in place. He later said the pompadour was more painful than any stunt he did in the movie. Number 4. The Summer Nights performance was filmed in one continuous 4-hour marathon session. The director wanted the energy to feel spontaneous and live, so he decided to shoot the entire musical number in a single day without stopping. The cast started at 6 a.m. and didn't finish until 8 p.m. They sang the song over and over and over again, 47 takes. By take 30, people were losing their voices. Olivia Newton-John's throat was raw. John Travolta was hoarse. The backup singers were practically mouthing the words by the end, but the director kept pushing because he wanted to capture genuine exhaustion and emotion. When you watch the final version in the movie, you're seeing bits and pieces from all 47 takes edited together. Some shots are from take 5, some are from take 42. The continuity is a mess if you look closely. Olivia's hair is in a slightly different position in almost every cut. The background actors are in different spots, but the energy is undeniable because everyone was completely drained and running on adrenaline. The crew started getting worried around take 35 when Olivia's voice started cracking on the high notes. The director considered stopping for the day and picking it up tomorrow, but he was afraid they'd lose the momentum. He made a deal with the cast. 5 more takes, and if they didn't get it, they'd come back fresh the next morning. Those final 5 takes were brutal. Everyone was exhausted. The lights were too hot. The choreography felt sloppy, but take 47 was the magic one. Everyone hit their marks. The vocals were strong, the energy was perfect. The director called cut, and the entire cast collapsed on the bleachers. Some people were crying from exhaustion. Others were laughing hysterically. The whole experience bonded them in a way that rehearsals never could have. Number 3. Stockard Channing and Jeff Conaway hated each other in real life. The chemistry between Rizzo and Kaniki on screen was completely fake. Off camera, they couldn't stand to be in the same room. The tension started during rehearsals when Conaway made a joke about Channing's age, calling her grandma in front of the cast. Channing didn't laugh. She fired back with a comment about his drinking. From that moment on, they were enemies. They refused to rehearse together. They wouldn't eat meals together. During the drive-in scene where Rizzo and Kaniki are making out in the back seat, the director had to shoot their close-ups separately because they wouldn't touch each other. The wide shots where you see them together are actually body doubles. The only time Channing and Conaway had to interact for real was during the pregnancy scare conversation, and you can feel the genuine tension between them. That scene works because the animosity was real. Channing later said she had no sympathy for Conaway's addiction issues and thought he was unprofessional. Conaway said Channing was cold and difficult. They never reconciled. Number 2. The movie was almost rated R because of the drag race language. In early cuts, the Thunder Road scene included way more profanity than what ended up in the final version. The characters were swearing constantly. The studio showed the film to the MPAA, and the ratings board said it would get an R rating if they didn't tone it down. An R rating would have killed the movie financially, because it wouldn't be able to reach the teen audience it was targeting. So the editor went back and cut out or dubbed over almost all the curse words. But if you watch closely and read lips, you can still see the actors saying the original lines. In some shots, the audio doesn't match their mouths at all. The redubbing was done so quickly that some of the replacement lines don't even make sense. There's a moment where one of the T-Birds clearly mouths a word that rhymes with truck, but the dubbed audio says jerk instead. It's painfully obvious. The movie got its PG rating, but film purists have been complaining about the censorship ever since. Number 1. Olivia Newton-John's Sandy transformation at the end was her idea, and the director hated it. In the original script, Sandy was supposed to stay sweet and innocent throughout the entire movie. The whole point was that Danny changes for her, not the other way around. But Olivia thought that was boring and regressive. She pitched the idea of Sandy having her own transformation, becoming tougher and more confident to match Danny's world. The director thought it sent the wrong message, that it implied women have to change themselves to get the guy. But Olivia argued that Sandy was making a choice, taking control of her own identity. The studio liked Olivia's version better because it gave them the iconic leather outfit and the "you're the one that I want" finale. So they overruled the director. He was furious and tried to sabotage the scene during filming by giving Olivia minimal direction and refusing to help her with the choreography. Olivia worked with the choreographer privately and created the entire final number herself. When audiences saw the movie and went crazy for Bad Sandy, the director had to admit he was wrong, but he never gave Olivia credit for saving the ending. Years later in interviews, he still claimed it was his idea. That's 21 weird facts you didn't know about Grease. A movie that looked perfect on screen, but was chaos behind the scenes. From drunk actors to dangerous stunts to a leading lady who had to be sewn into her costume. What's wild is that despite all the disasters, all the fights, all the last-minute fixes and compromises, Grease became one of the highest-grossing musicals of all time. It made over $400 million at the box office, on a budget of just $6 million. The soundtrack sold over 28 million copies. And more than 45 years later, people are still watching it, still singing along, still falling in love with Danny and Sandy. The behind-the-scenes chaos didn't ruin the movie. In some ways, it made it better. The authenticity you feel when you watch Grease comes from real people dealing with real problems and somehow pulling off something magical anyway. If you loved this breakdown, check out the video on screen now where I dive into another classic film that was falling apart during production. I'll see you in the next one.